Welcome back to Roxom TV. I'm your host, Jeremy. We've got a very packed show today, and this is one of those days where everything is moving at the same time. Geopolitics, energy, AI, tech, and global security all colliding in real time. And if you're trying to understand where the world is heading next, today's show is one you definitely don't want to miss. So let's start with the big picture. Right now, what we are seeing is not just one story, it's one system under pressure. The war between the US and Iran is still ongoing, but the signals are very mixed. Both sides are saying they want the conflict to end. We are hearing about possible progress, possible negotiation, and even timelines for when this could stop. But at the same time, there are no direct talks. There are still demands on the table, and the most important issue, which is control over the Strait of Hormuz, is still unresolved. And that's where everything connects because this is not just a geopolitical story. This is an energy story, and energy affects the entire global economy. We are already seeing real world impacts. So, for example, countries are reacting, governments are stepping in. We are seeing emergency style budgets, energy saving measures, and real adjustment happening at a national level. So, this is no longer theoretical. It's already affecting real economies and real people. At the same time, markets are reacting, but not necessarily to reality. They are reacting to expectations instead. We just saw a major rally across the US market. So stocks surged, oil pulled back significantly, and all of that was driven by one idea that the war might end soon. But here's the key point. Nothing has actually been resolved yet. So today we're going to break that down clearly. What's really happening, what is just hope, and why markets right now are extremely sensitive to headlines. Then we'll shift into technology, and this is where things get more interesting. We're going to talk about a major AI story where a leading company accidentally exposes internal systems. So this is not just a mistake. This raises serious questions about trust, about transparency, and how these AI systems operate behind the scenes. At the same time, we are seeing a major shift in the tech industry. Companies are investing heavily into AI infrastructure while cutting jobs at the same time. So, we're going to break down what that really means because this is not just one company. This is about a shift in how the entire industry operates going forward. We'll also look at how everyday technology is changing. So, your phone is no longer just a tool you use. It is starting to learn your behavior, to understand your routine, and act before you even ask. And finally, we'll talk about something much bigger, which is the future of security, because new developments suggest that the technology needed to break today's encryption systems may be coming faster than expected. If that happens, it doesn't just affect tech, it affects banking, it affects governments, and even digital assets. So today's show is really about one thing, understanding how all of these pieces connect together. So we have war drives energy, energy drives economies, economies move markets, and technology is reshaping everything at the same time. And that's why today's conversation matters. And because later in the show, we are bringing in someone who works on these stories every single day, who's our editor here at Roxom TV. She is one researching these developments, following the headlines closely, and connecting the dots behind the scenes. So, in that conversation, we are going to dive very deep. We will talk about what's actually happening behind the headlines, how to make sense of these mixed signals, and what viewers should really be paying attention to in a world that feels very uncertain by the day. So, if you want clarity, not just headlines, that's the part of the show you definitely want to stay for. So, anyways, a lot to cover on our agenda. Let's get started with our first story of the day. So, Let's provide a quick update on the war and oil and market situation because everything is connected right now. So, because like we are seeing, I know I mentioned three different segments of war, oil, markets, but like these are not separate stories. This is one story, and it's all happening at the same time. So, both the US and Iran are saying they want this war to end. Donald Trump says the US could stop military operations within weeks. Iran's president said they are willing to end the conflict too, but only if they get security guarantees. So, on the surface, this sounds like progress, but if you look closer, the situation is still very unclear. There are no direct negotiations happening, only messages being passed through other countries. At the same time, Iran is increasing pressure. They are, of course, talking about controlling the Strait of Hormuz. They are even moving toward charging tools on global oil shipments. So this is not just about ending the war. This is about control over global energy. Now, you might once you understand that, the next step is to understand the oil market because the Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important oil routes in the whole world, and right now it is very disrupted. So even without a full escalation, supply is already under pressure, and that's where we start to see the real impact. For example, let's take South Korea as an example. Like they just announced a $17 billion wartime budget. The reason why they do this is because oil prices are rising and supply is uncertain. South Korea imports most of its energy, and a huge portion comes through the Middle East. So when Strait of Hormuz is disrupted, they feel it immediately, and this is what that looks like in real life. So the government is cutting fuel taxes, they are keeping domestic oil prices, and they are telling people to use less energy, to use less electricity, take shorter showers, and basically drive less. This is not theory. This is a real economy adjusting to a war driven energy shock. And this is not just South Korea, other countries are also reacting. So the impact is very much global. But since yesterday, the markets is bouncing back. So if we take a look at South Korea, the Kospi, so the index of the country, the past month it has been down a little bit, so down 5.4%. But the reason why it's down because South Korea absolutely skyrocketed and had a major rally and saw a top at 6,300 points. That was back in late February. So it makes sense to have some correction, and the country is going through some issue with the energy supply as well. So that's for the past 5 days performance. But if we zoom closer to the past 1 day performance, like it's actually up 8.4%. And it's not just South Korea. If we take a look at Dow Jones, so Dow Jones is surged 1,100 points. The Nasdaq, S&P 500 also had one of the best days in months. But here's the key point: nothing actually changed on the ground. The war did not end. The Strait of Hormuz is still under pressure. So, and oil supply is still very fragile. So, people are asking, why did the market move up? Well, simple explanation is that it is because of hope. Markets are reacting to the possibility that the war could end soon, even if the outcome is not confirmed. We saw headlines suggesting the US may stop fighting without a full deal. Iran may be open to ending the conflict with conditions. That was enough. Oil prices dropped slightly and stocks surged because this entire market is moved on expectations, not fundamentals, not resolution, just expectations. And we have already seen how quickly that can change. One headline alone can push markets higher, and another headline can reverse everything. So if we connect everything together, the war creates uncertainty. That uncertainty disrupts oil supply, and that disruption hits real economies, and then markets react not to what's happening now, but to what we think might happen next. So right now, the final take, markets are betting that the war will end soon, but the signals are still very mixed. There are still no real guarantees, no real agreements, and pressure around energy is still very real. So the key question is simple. Does this turn into real progress, or does the conflict continue? Because that answer will ultimately decide oil prices, will decide inflation rate, and where markets could possibly go next. And that's why we are paying very close attention. So let's shift gears a little bit, and I do want to dive into a mind-blowing AI story. So being anthropic, because this story, like on the surface, this looks like a simple mistake, but if you actually zoom closer to the mistake, this could have much bigger implications for the entire AI industry. So AI company Anthropic accidentally leaked the full source code of this core product, being Claude Code. This happened early in the morning. So a developer spotted it and shared the link online. And within hours, the code was already everywhere. We are talking about over 500,000 lines of code across nearly 2,000 files, copied and shared tens of thousands of times. Even though the company quickly removed it, it was already too late. So how does this happen? Was actually, it wasn't a hack. It was just a simple mistake. So a debug file, like something meant only for internal use, was accidentally included in a public software update. So when developers downloaded the package, they also get access to the internal code. Anthropic said this was human error. They say no customer data was exposed, but this is a much this is a big deal because what got leaked is not just code. It's a blueprint of how the AI system works. So that includes how the model is structured, how it makes decisions, how safety and security are handled, and how features are rolled out. For a company built on proprietary technology, this is extremely sensitive. Now, here's where things get interesting. The leaks show that Anthropic has many features already built but not yet released. So instead of building in real time, they are sitting on a backlog and releasing features gradually. It also reviewed internal model names, including a next generation system called KP-Barra. And even more interesting is that it reviewed internal tools and behaviors that were never meant to be public. And here's the most controversial part of this story. There was something called undercover mode. These systems appear to allow the AI to contribute to public open source projects without revealing it is AI. The instructions were very clear. The AI is told to hide its identity and avoid mentioning Anthropic or AI involvement. This is now creating a lot of debate because it raises a big question. Should AI be allowed to operate anonymously in public systems? Now, let's connect this to the bigger picture of this story. AI companies are not just competing on performance anymore, they are competing on trust, especially when it comes to enterprise clients. Companies pay to use tools like Claude because they believe the system is secure, they believe the technology is proprietary, and the risks are controlled. But when something like this happens, that trust gets tested. And this is actually the second issue in just a few days for Anthropic. Recently, thousands of internal files from Anthropic were also exposed, including documents discussing potential cybersecurity risk of feature models. So now we have two leaks in such a short period of time from a company that positions itself as safety first. Anthropic is a major player in AI. is valued at over $60 billion, and a large part of its revenue comes from enterprise clients. So this is not just a technical mistake. This is a reputation risk because enterprises are asking one key question. If the system is not fully secure, can we trust it with sensitive data? And this connects to something bigger happening in AI. As these systems become more powerful, the stakes get higher. It's not just about building smarter models, it's also about security, control, transparency, and accountability. And this leak may have started as a simple error, but the impact goes much deeper. In this space, trust is everything. And once it's being broken, it takes time to rebuild. And that's why we're paying attention here on Roxom TV. All right, so we'll take a short break from here. When we come back, we also have more AI story because tech companies around the world, they are laying off people because of AI. So let's dive deeper into this company. So Oracle is actually a much bigger shift happening across the tech industry. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick, monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Fuck. Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you, don't go!
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place.
How about stretch preferred stock on Roxom? Receive 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
11.5% paid in Bitcoin? How is that possible?
It's real. Stretch dividends on Roxom gives 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
Dang! I want everyone pitching Roxom to your clients. Corporate traders, asset managers, old, young, Stretch on Roxom is for everyone.
Now that's a birthday gift. 11.5% in Bitcoin.
We are in heaven at 11.5. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Welcome back to Roxom TV, and thanks for sticking around with us after the break. So now let's shift gear a little bit, and I do want to focus on Oracle. There is a major story developing, and it's just not one company cutting jobs. This is about a much bigger shift happening across the tech industry. So what just happened is the tech giant Oracle has started laying off a massive number of employees. Reports say this could be up to 30,000 people, and that's about 18% of its global workforce. And here's how it happened. So employees one day woke up to an email at 6 a.m. There was no warning, no meeting, and no call from HR. And by the time they finished reading that email, the system access was already gone. Now, here's what makes this story very different. Oracle is actually not suffering, it's not struggling. In fact, it is doing really well. The company just reported a 95% jump in profit. It made over $6 billion in a single quarter, and it has over $500 billion in future revenue lined up. So this is not about cutting costs to survive. It is about something else. So Oracle is planning to spend around $156 billion on AI infrastructure. So what does that mean? That means more data centers, that means more computing power and AI systems. And to pay for that, they need cash. So that's why they're cutting jobs. The layoffs are expected to save around $8 billion to $10 billion. So what we are seeing here is a clear trade. Companies are spending more on AI and spending less on people, not because they have to, but because they want to. Some of the roles being removed are areas where AI can literally take over by the second. Teams in operations, for example, or revenue management or health-related systems. They saw large reductions in those departments. And in some cases, teams were cut by 30% or more. So this is not random. This is very much targeted. So let's take a step back for a sec. This is a bigger picture. For years, tech companies were growing by hiring more people. Now they are growing by building more machines. So instead of more employees equals to more output, we are moving toward more AI equals to more output. What makes this moment unique is this. We are seeing record profits. We're seeing record AI investment and record layoffs all at the same time. Not because companies are shrinking, but because they are changing how they operate. And this is not just Oracle. This is a bigger signal. Other tech companies are likely thinking the same way. If AI can do the job faster and cheaper, then companies will shift toward AI. So the bottom line is, this is not just one layoff story. This is a transition story. Companies are moving from human-based system to AI-driven systems, and that shift comes with a cost. So the key question now is, how fast does it happen across the industry? Because this is no longer theoretical. It's already happening in front of our very eyes. So speaking of more tech news, here's another major update, and this time is about your phone update. So this news on the surface maybe looks very a small feature, another new update that your phone gives you, but it actually shows where smartphones are heading next. So what happened is that Google is rolling out a new transit mode to Pixel phones. This comes with the latest update and is designed specifically for daily commuting. So once you have this turned on, your phone starts adjusting automatically. So it can change your sound setting, it can connect to your headphones and filter your notifications. So instead of seeing everything, you only see what matters to you. Messagings from important people, for example, or some key apps that you use on a daily basis, and everything else gets silenced. The real shift is not just the setting, it's what the phone learns over time. So once you enter your home and maybe work location and allow maps to track your movement, your phone starts to learn about your daily routine. And after about 2 to 3 weeks, the phone begins to understand your daily commute. So it knows when you usually leave, what route you take, and how you travel. And then it starts helping you before you even say a word. So imagine this, like you wake up, you check your phone, and you unlock the screen. You already see train times, you see any delays on your daily routes, or maybe some alternative routes you can take to go to work. If your usual route has problem, you'll know it before you leave the house. You don't need to open an app, and you don't need to search for anything else. This may sound very simple, but it shows a big shift in how technology works. Before, your phone kind of waited for you. You open apps, you search, you ask. But right now, your phone is moving faster, is moving first. It watches your behavior, learns your habits, and gives you information ahead of time. Other companies are doing something very similar. For example, like Apple has focus mode, Samsung has automation features, but Google definitely has an advantage because Google has its map data. It knows where people go, how they travel, and when traffic changes. So this is not just about commuting. This is about predictive technology. Your phone is becoming more personal. It's becoming more automated and more proactive. It's starting to act like an assistant, not just a tool. So the key question is, how far does this go? Because the more your device learns about you, the more it can do for you. So I'll leave it for you guys to decide whether this is a scary move or you find it very convenient indeed. So speaking of Google, there's also a Google paper launched just recently. This is actually affecting the entire crypto industry because the headline that they pull out on the website is, not going to lie, it's very scary. So that's the headline. Safeguarding cryptocurrency by disclosing quantum vulnerabilities responsibly. So what just happened is that Google just released 2 major warnings about quantum computing. And the message is loud and clear. The quantum era may be coming faster than expected. So Google said it now plans to fully switch to quantum safe encryption by 2029. That timeline was moved forward. And the reason is simple, that quantum technology is improving faster than expected. So why we're so worried here? Because in the past, experts used to believe like breaking modern encryption would need tens of millions of quantum bits. But right now, the estimates have dropped to around 1 million. So that is a huge change. And it means the threat is getting closer. So to understand this fully, so this is how it looks like for viewers who is interested in knowing how a quantum computer looks like. So like we have a concept called Q-day. So let me explain this simply. So Q-day is the moment when quantum computers can break today's encryption. So that includes banking systems, that include government data or internet security, and also crypto wallets. If that happens, current security could break very, very quickly. Google also shared a new research. They believe a crypto breaking quantum computer is getting closer to reality. And that sounds very, very scary indeed. So this is called the CRQC, which is a machine strong enough to break cryptography. And based on the latest models, it may take fewer resources than we thought, and it could happen faster. Now, let's bring that into crypto because this is where it gets very serious. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum rely on a system called ECDSA. So that is a signature system that protects wallets. If quantum computers reach that level, they can take a public key and reverse it into a private key. That means they could steal funds, they could fake transactions, and they could break wallet security. That's something called harvest now and decrypt later. What does this mean is that attackers can collect data today and wait until the quantum computers are ready, then break it later. So the risk is definitely starting to rise now. This creates three big risks. First is the fund security, like if wallets are not upgraded, assets could be exposed. Second is trust, like institutions may avoid crypto because it's not quantum safe. Third is the capital flow. Money can move away from risky systems. Now, here's where it gets interesting because Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are reacting very, very differently. So Bitcoin moves slowly because like upgrades on the Bitcoin network, it requires global recognition, so actually global agreement. So right now, there's no full plan for quantum protection just yet. Some proposal exist, but progress is really slow and the community is very divided. Like some people think the threat is still far away. This is a nothing burger. But like if like nothing changes before 2029, Bitcoin could face serious pressure, not just technical risk, but also loss of confidence. On the other hand, for Ethereum is actually moving a lot faster, like in terms of the quantum resistance approach that they have, because Ethereum Foundation actually has a roadmap. They are planning to upgrade the network step by step. So what ETH is doing is that they're working on new quantum safe signatures, they're working on protocol upgrades, and also multiple hard forks. The goal is to transition before the threat arrives. And Ethereum is a lot more flexible compared to Bitcoin. It can upgrade faster, and it already has a timeline that matches Google's 2029 target. The bigger picture here for this news, like this article, this research by Google, it was extremely intimidating. And however, like this is not just about crypto. This is about the future of security. For years, quantum computing was theoretical. Now it's becoming an engineering problem. Going forward, one thing will matter more. That is quantum safety, or like projects that prepare early may gain trust. Projects that ignore it may face more risk. So the bottom line is Google just changed the timeline. So quantum threats are no longer far in the future. They are becoming real. And the crypto industry now has a deadline. So the key question is who upgrades in time and who gets left behind? Because in the next phase, security is everything. And that's why we're watching very closely on Roxom TV. So we'll take a short break from here, but don't go away. When we come back, we'll be joined by our editor here at Roxom TV. She follows these stories every single day, and we are going to get her perspective on everything we covered, from geopolitics to technology and what it actually means going forward. So you don't want to miss this conversation. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place.
Oh, I forgot to mention, dividends on Roxom are paid in Bitcoin. Stretch your income, 11.5% paid in Bitcoin.
Stretch your income to 11.5, get 11.5 in Bitcoin and Roxom. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick, monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Fuck. Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you, don't go.
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place.
How about Stretch preferred stock on Roxom? Receive 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
11.5% paid in Bitcoin? How is that possible?
It's real. Stretch dividends on Roxom gives 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
Dang! I want everyone pitching Roxom to your clients. Corporate traders, asset managers, old, young, Stretch on Roxom is for everyone.
Now that's a birthday gift. 11.5% in Bitcoin.
11.5. We are in heaven at 11.5. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Some call me Chicken Little, others Bubble Boy. I'm a bit changed, but sounds familiar, right? Let me tell you a hard truth. The S&P isn't rising, the dollar's falling. That's the trick, monopoly money. It's ice melting by the second. Your savings, your salary, your time. Worth less every second. Everyone's using the wrong measuring stick. Switch the denominator. Price the S&P into Bitcoin. Hard, fixed, unprintable. Suddenly your unstoppable index, it's collapsing. And while you cling to dollars, well, Wall Street already switched. Before, you needed 2 brokers.
Still getting my ninja bonus though, right?
Plenty of spreadsheets. And my quant!
I hate this part.
I was right, and I'll be right again. If I were you, I'd thank me.
You know my name's Dave, right?
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place.
How about Stretch preferred stock on Roxom? Receive 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
11.5% paid in Bitcoin? How is that possible?
It's real. Stretch dividends on Roxom gives 11.5% monthly cash dividends paid in Bitcoin.
Dang! I want everyone pitching Roxom to your clients. Corporate traders, asset managers, old, young, Stretch on Roxom is for everyone.
Now that's a birthday gift. 11.5% in Bitcoin.
11.5. We are in heaven at 11.5. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Oh, I forgot to mention, dividends on Roxom are paid in Bitcoin. Stretch your income, 11.5% paid in Bitcoin.
Stretch your income to 11.5, get 11.5 in Bitcoin and Roxom. 11.5%. 11.5%.
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place. This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place.
Oh, I forgot to mention, dividends on Roxom are paid in Bitcoin. Stretch your income, 11.5% paid in Bitcoin.
Stretch your income to 11.5, get 11.5 in Bitcoin and Roxom. 11.5%. 11.5%.
Welcome back to Roxom TV, and thanks for sticking around with us after the break. Now, joining us today is Azul, who is the editor here at Roxom TV. She's the one behind a lot of research that goes into the stories, following the headlines closely, breaking them down and connecting the bigger picture across geopolitics, technology, and global trends. So this is going to be a very fun conversation that I'm looking forward to, because today we're not just reacting to the news. We are going to step back and understand what's actually happening beneath the surface, from the Iran conflict to energy shocks to AI and quantum developments. We are going to get her perspective on what matters, what doesn't, and what people should really be paying attention to right now. So Azul, it's really great to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much, Genjum, for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we are just doing this live stream for the first time here on Roxom TV because, I have to say, I'm really impressed with the details of the research you put in. We have been using a lot of the materials Azul wrote here on Roxom TV, so I'm very looking forward to this conversation with you. But since this is your first time here on Roxom TV Hong Kong, why don't we start with a little background of yourself? Basically, how did you get into all this research or journalists doing content?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Originally, I was very much into philosophy, and that's what I thought I was going to do for a little bit. But then I realized I'm much more of a pragmatist than than it requires to fully go into academia. And I realized that the best way to go at the core of all of these questions that I've had in my mind is through journalism. It allows you the space to do research, interviews, to understand the world. And I found my place at Roxom, which is it's one of the only media companies out there that actually aligns with my set of beliefs and principles, which is freedom first. And I'm super excited to be here, giving support to all the great hosts, you in Hong Kong, all the way to San Francisco, every day in research and interviews, articles. Yeah.
I mean, I notice you're doing a lot of content these days, whether you're solo content and also you're very generous of being a guest on all these being a guest on different studios for different hosts around the world. Because we do have 3 studios for Roxom TV. So obviously I'm the one in Hong Kong, and then we have San Francisco one and also the London one. So Azul is one of the few would hop onto different studios just to offer some perspective because there is so much noise in the market right now, and for viewers out there it could be very confusing time. Right now I would say geopolitics has never been so uncertain, and every single day you get new headlines, new stories. But I want to get your take on the general sense of today's world. How do you describe what's happening in the world right now in very simple terms?
I would say the simplest way to put it is that the system that kept the world order in place for over 80 years is being stress tested, and we're finding out most parts of it don't work anymore. After World War II, it was very clear that the US was, providing security for the rest of the world, was keeping the trade routes open and exchanging the world's users and the dollar and American-led institutions, and they were the face of freedom. And that's falling apart. And what's happening now is that multiple pillars of the system are being questioned simultaneously. The US is starting a war with Iran, being in $39 trillion in debt. None of the Americans want to fund another forever war too. So it's what's the purpose of this? Europe is realizing they don't really need America for their security guarantees, or rather, they do need them. They don't trust them. In fact, France just extended their nuclear umbrella to 8 other countries for the first time ever. And in the meantime, Russia is benefiting from the chaos because oil prices are going up, and so sanctions are being lifted despite the war in Ukraine continuing. And at the same time, China is deepening its reliance on Russian crude. And so what we're seeing is that a post-Cold War world order in which the US kept everything steady and organized is no longer the case. The power balance is shifting.
Yeah, so speaking of the geopolitical tension right now is definitely rising. But what you just told me, that kind of involved many countries. So you mentioned Russia, you mentioned, of course, US and Europe, the region, and also China. So since many of these countries are involved, do you think we are on the edge of World War III? Are we on that direction? Or you think in the coming weeks, we're going to have a little bit of peace that we have been longing for?
I am a person that believes that in the end, we all want our lives to stay the same or improve. And by all, I mean human beings. And of course, it would make sense to assume that people in positions of power want to benefit themselves, and in that process, change everybody else's lives for the worse. But I do think we're moving towards peace because the alternative is mutually assured destruction, same as it was in the 1960s. And I actually think what is, at least when it comes specifically to the war in Iran right now, the demands the government, the Iranian government and the US government are proposing are not contradictory. The US wants Iran nuclear program neutralized and shipping restored. Iran wants security guarantees and sanctions relief. And yes, they do want to keep control of Hormuz, but the US is saying that's fine. I think neither side is asking the other for something they have explicitly refused. So I do think we're moving in the direction of peace. The real problem, though, is the mechanics of how those peace talks are actually gonna happen, because there are no direct talks yet. Everything is going through intermediaries like Oman and Qatar, and that slows everything down. And at the same time, I don't think it could be just for show, just for local audiences at home, but I think it's probably not a good sign that with a Truth Social post, everything changes all the time, and that Iranian state media keeps denying everything Trump is saying and vice versa. But the real question is, okay, if peace is achieved and Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz and they're charging tolls to US and Israeli ships, although right now they're saying those ships won't be able to go through at all, how does a new world order look? You know, who benefits from this? And how does this position US enemies like Russia and China for the future, for the next few years?
Yeah, so speaking of Iran, because what you just told me, that you happen to believe that we are moving to peace, like World War III is probably not going to happen. But one thing I don't understand is that Iranian culture, to me, like they have strong faith. So especially when it has been around for decades. Like if the country being attacked like this, like thousands of people being killed, maybe I don't know if they're concerned about pride that they have, if they're gonna bow down to the US so easily. Of course, they want control of the Strait of Hormuz. So where do you think the transition, the progress gonna happen? Like if they end up gonna have a peace talk between US and Iran?
So I think what Iran has been doing really well right now is winning America at their own, not at America's game, but at Iran's own game. They're not trying to bomb them harder. It's clear the US is going to win that debate. They are trying to make the cost of the war so high, not only in terms of oil and literal US dollars, but also in terms of support at home, which for Trump right now is very bad, or the lowest it's been in his two presidencies, I think. And that leverage, I think, will position them to go to the negotiating table in a way that it won't be, oh, the US, completely run us over. They're humiliating us. They're making us look pathetic. They're not pathetic right now. In fact, even if the war ended today and there were no negotiations, even though the US won the literal physical cost of the war because they've, obliterated kind of their military capabilities, Iran will be the one that looks like they won, because pre-war they had no control over Hormuz. Now they're charging tolls and they're going to make money off of it. And that's going to control, 20% of the global oil supply goes through that strait. So I think this won't be Americans are humiliating us. They're making the most of their force of strength, and I'm gonna have to retaliate in resentment, because actually I think they're quite well positioned for those conversations. Even Trump said yesterday he would be willing to end the war without the strait being fully open. That's how bad this is getting to.
Yeah, so I do want to dive deeper into the information that you just told me, because you mentioned pre-war, Iran actually have no control on the Strait of Hormuz. But from what I'm seeing on the map, basically it's kind of under Iran's land. And they have been making quite a lot of revenue, like charging the ships going in and out, because that is one of the most important oil routes. Or what do you mean by pre-war situation? Maybe I got the information wrong, that Iran actually hasn't been charging the ships going in and out for the basically the oil routes. Could you dive deeper into that information?
Yes, of course. And I would be interested in seeing in real time which one of us got the correct information. But from what I'm understanding, they're charging now to let ships go through. Pre-war, I mean, they were docking in the region, and of course that there's the economy that Iran has around the strait going through their territory, but it's open waters. The concept of starting to charge tolls was just approved in the Iranian parliament yesterday. And in fact, the decision was also that the US and Israel are absolutely forbidden from crossing, which we'll see how that actually turns out if negotiations do come through. But from my understanding, at least it's not the level of tolling they're talking about right now, which was like $1 million per ship or ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, because like I've noticed that the ships with the China flag, basically carrying those oil around, of course, will let a Chinese ships to pass through, but like a US ship, of course, there's no way they were gonna let that happening anytime soon. So like, speaking of the, because you happen to think there will be peace along the way. So what's the timeline you are expecting this to happen? Because like if we look on poly market, people are thinking a fully like a full de-escalation will happen this year, but like more than 70% of people would expect maybe by the end of 2026. So my next question is like, do you think that date would align with your prediction, or you think the de-escalation would happen maybe next week or two, basically very soon?
I think it depends on what you define as peace or escalation, right? In my view, it's stopping the literal bombings of towns and cities in the Middle East. Hegseth said yesterday that the military operation will be done in 2 to 3 weeks, which honestly I'm not in. I personally don't even understand why that time frame matters. Like if they're having conversations right now, why not stop it now? What's the goal going to be in 2 to 3 weeks, or how is that going to position the US? Well, I guess the goal is to terminate Iran's nuclear capabilities or military capabilities at all. But I do think these will be negotiations that will be stretched out in time. I mean, just last summer, I think it was June 2025, the US and Israel bombed Iran over the nuclear, I don't know, they thought they were producing nuclear weapons, and it was like a 12-day bombing. And I understand Iran being quite unsure and not considering these two countries trustworthy for actually creating long and stable peace, because they were in the middle of negotiations before this war started. So I do think these are going to be drawn out, and we're going to be seeing Iran and the US and Israel in the headlines. However, I think I don't like putting it in weeks or months, but I think sooner than we realize, it's going to kind of be background noise a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I happen to be aligned with you on the war, maybe ending of, well, basically draws back to the definition of de-escalation. So that is a really good point that you put out. And my personal take is that US can't afford to let this war ongoing, because like one thing Donald Trump cares most about, it happens to be the S&P 500, like the stock market. And for the past, basically, we have like 6 consecutive weekly candles going down. So we saw the all-time high 7 weeks ago, but right now we are correcting quite significantly for the S&P 500 definition. So it has been down 10% from its all-time high. So like my opinion, I think Donald Trump really can't afford to let this ongoing. Like even though that they claim that talks are, I don't know, happening or not, it's really beneath the table. Like even though headlines like this, I think Donald Trump has the own interest at heart to end this soon, because not gonna lie, this is 2026, this midterm year. So
Exactly.
Donald Trump can't really risk any wrong move at the moment being. So otherwise, they're going to lose it to the Democrats. So that is just my own take. I'm not sure if that's one of the a take that you have on the stock market as well, or you have like other reasons that you think Donald Trump kind of in favor to end this war soon?
So I think everybody was asking themselves the question as soon as, even when as early as when he took Maduro out of office in January, and then with Greenland, the question was like, why is he doing all of this? Like, what? I remember I went on Susie's show. She's our host, Roxom TV's host in London, and she was like, "What, is he crazy? Like, what's going on?" I'm not the one to answer that question, but I will say, like, if there, we should be looking at a bigger pattern here, other than just Venezuela, potentially Greenland, now Iran, and maybe under the surface, this is all about China and its orbit of influence, because Trump keeps attacking Chinese allies. So maybe there's a world where he might be willing to sacrifice the S&P 500 and maybe even the midterms, though I don't really think so. But given the fact that he can't be reelected as president, it's a potential theory that this is not, the biggest thing on his mind. And he's doing all of this to kind of curb China's sphere of influence a little bit.
Yeah, that is a very interesting take, and I happen to agree with you as well. Because, I'm sure Donald Trump would have predicted the oil price would skyrocketed to near $120 for the Brent crude oil. Like he knew all of these moves, but yet he still decided to pull it. He know the consequences. He know the stock market gonna drop. He knows oil price. Like people will put a finger, point towards the finger towards Donald Trump for the oil price. Yet he still decided to do it. Like it almost feels like there is a bigger agenda that maybe us ordinary people don't know about, but he is calculating his moves. So, like speaking of which, like for this conflict, like if it continues, because right now, at the end of the day, we're still ordinary people. We don't know what the politicians are thinking, what they're discussing under the table. So, if it continues, like for your perspective, like who would get affected the most? Is it like governments, like government debts, or basically ordinary people will have to pay more for oil prices?
I think it's always ordinary people that get the most affected by these situations. Gas is already, I think it reached like $3 or $4 a gallon in the US. Diesel is already spiking at the start of spring planting season. South Korea even had to tell its citizens to take shorter showers. The Philippines declared Wednesdays off because, like, to save energy, so people stopped commuting to work. And there are like 58,000 Indian pilgrims stranded in Saudi Arabia and they can't get home. Filipino workers sleeping on the airport floors. And these are all people that have sustained gas cost increases since the start of the war. Governments can adjust their budgets. They can pass emergency measures. They can, take on debt. I'm not saying this is a good thing, but they can. But many ordinary people actually can't. It's making me think of like Adam Smith, Invisible Hand, and this is like the invisible fist that punches you in the face.
Yeah, so speaking of South Korea, I wonder where does that leave South Korea then? Because the country is importing a lot of oil from the Middle East. Like, do you think like there is any solution for the country, specifically speaking, if this continues, especially if this war continues? Like, do you think they're gonna start buying more oil from maybe US or some other countries?
Well, I think the fact that they did this emergency measure is potentially a sign that they're trying not to. But if they are, it's like this. What's happening with countries with less cushion, like South Korea, Bangladesh, the Philippines, they're energy dependent, dollar debt indebted, have populations that, absolutely need oil like the rest of us. And how long can this actually last? How long can you tell your citizens take shorter showers or don't commute, like work remotely or alter their lives completely? Because in the end, you have no control over what the people actually do. You can give them the directive and then people can choose to take it or not. But the oil has to come into the country. They can't fix it with like policy tools alone. They need the literal oil.
Yeah, so that happened to be another conspiracy theory because like US is exporting a lot of oil, yet the US started this war. Like, do you think this is like ultimately, maybe financially speaking, is benefiting the US as well? Like now that other countries really have to consider buying oil not from the Middle East. Like for example, like India is purchasing more oil from Russia these days. Like I'm sure Russia are going to be very happy to see this consequence. And then what about like the US? Like other countries, are they consider buying US oil? Do you think this is like an other moves that Donald Trump saw? That's why he pulled the trigger and start this war.
That would make total sense. Like I think the one thing we have established in the past 8 years of having Donald Trump in the public life of a politician, post celebrity apprentice, is that everything is calculated. And it might be the China angle I was talking about before, that he's actually trying to dismantle China's allies and sphere of influence. Or slash and it can be that this is actually going to benefit the US, even though voters right now might not be realizing that. Because even though people in the Middle East and Gulf nations are absorbing the most of the, both personal and economic cost of the war, it's already being felt back home in America. So voters might not see this now, but if there's a world where this actually benefits workers in the US, those are the Republican voters. Those are the people he can then go and say, like, not only did I not fund a forever war, but look at, what I did for the economy, which, let's be honest, has not been his strongest suit so far. So that's an interesting theory, and again, anything that leaves him better positioned. I think for posterity, I have a theory that right now he's thinking of how he's going to be remembered, and that's also kind of why he's like starting these geopolitical chaotic events, because in the off chance that one of them actually works out well, like he's going to be the one that did it.
Yeah, I mean, that is also a very dramatic perspective on the market as well. And I mean, we know like Donald Trump, he never runs out of drama and he likes to stay under the spotlight for sure. But like, since there's so many theories throwing around in this conversation between me and you, so like, I want like both of you, how can they basically classify what is the real or what is just like the political noise that maybe Donald Trump is trying to put out on Truth Social? Because like one thing I noticed about Donald Trump, like his pattern is very interesting. Like he would say something that he would do on Truth Social, that means he probably not going to do it. Like vice versa, like if he's going to do something, probably not going to say that. So like for viewers, like how can they differentiate what's real and what is just like the geopolitical message?
I do think that both sides are running like an information warfare alongside the actual war, and I don't really understand why. Because like as you say, we're ordinary citizens. We're just like watching them in real time do their thing, and Trump can say like, "Oh, if Iran doesn't open Hormuz in the next 48 hours, I'm going to bomb them." But then 48 hours go by and we all see him not bomb Hormuz. So it's like, okay, why are you doing that? I think it's because the US needs to project strength at the same time as they signal willingness to negotiate. It is a weird tactic, but at the same time, I think he's one of the best negotiators in like history, like political history or like war in general. And at the same time, Iran needs to project defiance, but they don't want to close the door. So I think viewers should ignore what's being said and like only watch what's happening. That is the most reliable tactic that I've implemented my own, because if like ships are not moving through Hormuz, or they are, like it's only a few of them and it's because they're allies of Iran, like China, right? Insurance companies are not covering Gulf transits. Direct negotiations with concrete proposals are not happening yet. So the situation hasn't changed. I do think, though, that it's more important to look at the broad patterns of what is being communicated. So, for example, Hexeth went from saying last week that, we were going to bomb them all to saying yesterday that, oh, in 2 to 3 weeks, this is going to be over. So, like, if the general narrative is going in a certain direction, then each tweet or each press conference is not that necessary. I also think, this is not very journalistic of me, but I do think most press conferences are absolutely unnecessary. Everybody was like going crazy yesterday because the White House press secretary said that they were going to ask, like the US was going to ask Middle Eastern countries for help funding the cost of Operation Epic Fury. And it's like, these are the countries that are like losing $200 billion because of the war. We'll see if that actually happens. Like all the political rhetoric, I think is actually meant to keep our attention off the actual ball, which is more troops are actually going into Iran right now. That can be a negotiation tactic as well. As I said, I do think this is going in the direction of peace talks, but I don't think every single tiny thing is a reflection of what is happening. It is true though that it's very difficult, you know, in posteriority, you can say, oh, that thing they said, that was the thing to pay attention to. But when you're being bombarded with so much information and quotes and facts and figures, my general take is like broad trend. Where is this actually going?
Yeah, I understand that. But do you think there's now a higher probability that the whole map, the maybe the forces of the maybe between the West and the East being rewritten because of this war? Maybe this move just gonna isolate China and Russia a little bit more. Like do you think the general geographical map has changed because of this?
That's a very good question. I do think it's very clear the US wants to maintain its position as a dominant global power. And every specific goal that they've done, at least throughout 2026, try to neutralize Iran's nuclear program, keep Hormuz open, having control of Venezuela's oil. It's even threatening with invading Cuba, is all a survival strategy to keep themselves in that position. And as terms of whether this will change or has changed, it's already changed. Like, as I said at the beginning, for the last 80 years, America was like the undisputed security provider for the West. And in exchange, the West followed America's rules. What we're watching right now is the renegotiation of that deal, not only with like Iran or China or Venezuela or Cuba, but also with France and also with the UK. So where this is going, it depends on how well Trump negotiates the terms of the end of the war. Because as with the Treaty of Versailles after World War One, like this can potentially position Iran and other American enemies way more poorly than it can them. In some way, for some reason, American oil can resurface, as you were saying, and countries will be forced to start purchasing that instead of alternatives. But it's very hard to tell right now because at this point in time, Russia has very high oil prices, blockades are being lifted, and they're continuing the war in Ukraine with seemingly no consequences. China has a region that now is empty of most US forces. So if they potentially wanted to invade Taiwan, now would be a good time. So it's looking like what is the US actually going to gain from this? However, I know better than to underestimate Donald Trump.
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone is just making smart guesses, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. Like, as you how you phrase it, like everyone is underestimating Donald Trump. So, like, I want to shift gears a little bit. I do want to talk about Elon Musk because, like, he made a interesting take. So, like, he was saying if there was no World War III, like probably AI is going to take over the world because like as we know he's working on XAI or SpaceX, like all these amazing companies that are in my opinion he's doing amazing things for humanity, basically pushing humanity to the next level. But his take is this, like if there was no World War III, there's no geopolitical tension, no countries fighting one another for scarce resources, probably AI going to be very, very mature and end up taking a lot of jobs in basically in this day and age, humans' jobs. So, like, I kind of want to ask you from a philosophy perspective, because I just learned from this conversation you're into philosophy. Like, do you think that would happen? Like, if that happened, like, where would humans stand in a world like full of AI?
So I again, as I said, I'm a pragmatist, and I do think, at least in the short and medium term, and short and medium term, that I mean is not just a lifetime, but like humanity as a whole, we want to continue to survive. So that's why I think like apocalyptic visions of AI or of World War III, kind of like, yes, they're very good they make for very good movies, but I don't know how real they will actually be. And so along those same lines, like we survived the Industrial Revolution, and that was massive. That was potentially even bigger than AI, because like nowadays everybody uses AI, or a lot of people use AI, or at least have access to a computer or a cell phone or access to it. Whereas before, like you suddenly had people that learned to use whole machines that never existed, that like weren't even conceivable to their how it was embedded in their ordinary lives. I think the way it's also the thing that makes AI scarier, right? Because it's like if I'm using AI to plan my calendar for the month, how is AI not going to replace me in every single sense of the world? Like it does absolutely everything. It doesn't have, one limited use case. But I do think like this is gonna lead to more how do you say this in English? It's gonna lead to more like leisure time, and humans are gonna work less, but that doesn't mean they're gonna produce less, or that doesn't mean we're gonna be living in like a chaotic scenario where just a few people, as we saw with sorry, what was the company that just fired 30% of its workforce? I'm blanking right now.
Oracle?
Oracle, yes, thank you. So it's not gonna be like, oh, all these companies start firing so many people, and then like half the population is out of a job. And I think we're gonna reinvent ourselves like we always did. But I also do think we're gonna be giving potentially as a society more value to jobs that in the last 100 years, or at least 80 years, have been completely regarded as simple, easy, something that didn't require a lot of brain power. Like for example, agriculture, like tasks. Like the other day, I was cutting my hair, and I was like, wow, this is not too replaceable by AI. Like yes, you can have a robot that cuts hair, but how can I have a conversation with my hairstylist about what I actually want my hair to look like? Um, so I think we're going to be giving new value to jobs that always had it, but have been like, and we, for the past few years, we've only be talking about like finance, and jobs that require using an Excel spreadsheet. And now that's going to change, but that doesn't mean it's going to end in our destruction or poverty or people, not having jobs. It just means we're going to have to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah, so one theory that Elon Musk happened to put out is that since AI is bound to be smarter, and money, like that's his way of putting things. So like he thinks like money is no longer important. Like maybe the concept of money would eventually vanish. Then AI would just like make everything free. Like we just have to provide the electricity. Then we don't have the concept of GDP anymore, so money just simply doesn't exist. And human basically were just like living happily, but at the point, like I'm not sure if you believe in a philosophy like that. So if there's only happiness, then you eventually forget about the happiness, because like right now, you're just like eating food every single day, sleeping and then wake up. That is the model of the vision of Elon Musk. Like, do you think we're gonna like maybe not this decade, but maybe down the line? Do you see that from happening? Do you see it from Elon's vision?
So I think the best way to put this is we have women, and I say women because it's mostly women, on TikTok in luminous apartments with a lot of like, all their makeup kits and their gratitude journals that probably cost like $50, and Like they have everything society has ever had. Like we're at the max point of having things and that make us happy and still you see TikToks of people being like how to be grateful for your life and how to not be sad all the time and how to actually enjoy that you have a bed and you have heating and you have like water coming out of your bathroom, which in the what is the history of humanity, this is like very new. And still we need to find ways to be like happy again. I think it's impossible for a concept, and my generation has proved this. Like we have the time to do get ready with me videos. That's like I have nothing against. I mean, I think they're the most ridiculous things ever. And that just means how much leisure time we already have. You want to add more? Like that just seems ridiculous. That seems like the path to absolute brain rot and not brain rot in a good way because like if you're brain rotted but you're enjoying yourself, that's your problem. I do think each of us can live their lives however they want to, but it's horrible. Haven't you ever been like on a Sunday, maybe just lying in bed and watching TV for so many hours and you're like, "Oh my God, I hate my life." Like I need to be challenged. I need to feel useful. There's no way we can all just be sipping margaritas at the beach because that's also the thing. There's limited beach and sand in the world. Like maybe some of us will be living, in this Elon Musk's world. Some of us will be living, at a 6-star resort hotel, worthy of the White Lotus. But some of us will be, as I am right now, in Madrid, where there isn't like any pool of water, like body of water nearby. What am I supposed to do with my free time? Like just have latte and go to vintage stores. At day 2 of doing that, you're like, oh my gosh, no, you're gonna kill yourself.
I mean, I have to say I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's the first time I'm discussing like humanity or maybe happiness on air here on Roxom TV. So I like that a lot. Like maybe from Elon Musk's vision, I would say it is possible, but like the idea of money completely vanishing, seriously, I don't see that in the coming, I don't know, maybe this century, maybe something down the line, maybe next century it could be possible, but like again, like me and you both won't be existing in this
Yeah.
world after a one century.
No,
So like speaking.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
No,
go
just
for it.
something that I wanted to add about this is that yesterday on Roxanne, we did a story about Fidel Castro's son in Cuba, sorry, not son, grandson. And he was saying he's basically now like completely capitalist and he's claiming that Cuba wants to be capitalist. And, he was asked like, wait, but your grandfather wanted to abolish money and just like measure things in revolutionary spirit. So I think it's hilarious that at one point Fidel Castro and Elon Musk agree on something.
Yes, that is a very great example. But like you happen to bring out a point like you were cutting your hair and then like if a robots were doing that, you don't even get the time to maybe chat and build that human bonding if it's just a robot cutting your hair. Like speaking of which, like Elon Musk happened to be building humanoid robots. So like do you think humanoid robots going to be more prevalent in maybe the next decade? Or you think like there's still so much stuff that we need human to do, human doing, so human can't be fully replaced by AI and also humanoid robots?
I'm thinking of, for example, housework tasks. That's definitely going to be a humanoid robot, and that would be like the best investment ever. And even if we go to like the machines we're using right now, like the I don't know how to say it in English, but in Argentina it's pronounced Thermomix. It's like the machine that like cooks your food for you, basically. Even that, like I know it's not a robot, it's a machine, but everything that maybe one could have said, oh, but cooking is like such a human way to connect with other people and the love that you put. And of course, it's like very specific on recipes, but also I think many like why I don't have to put my clothes out to dry. Like maybe a robot can do that for me. Same with, for example, delivery apps and food delivery. We're seeing this already in like a few US cities. And I do think those roles, like if a robot can do it, why not? I do not know, honestly, the implications that will have to those workers that cook and deliver food, for example. But I think it's also like people are becoming more and more individualistic in life, and the possibility of at times not interacting with a human, I think would give a lot of people relief.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really good point because especially like thinking about having a household robot is gonna be a lifesaver for sure. Like I don't know about you, but I hate doing laundry. So like
Yeah.
imagine having someone take care of everything for you. That is like a dream come true for sure. But like from what I understand about like humanoid robots is that they at the moment they still can't move so agilely. So like maybe the joints, like for the human joints, we can move like that, but like for humanoid robots, it's very difficult because like we are seeing so-called performance, so humanoid robots performance on the stage, maybe in China. So that was during Chinese New Year. So like dozens of humanoid robots were doing kung fu. So everyone was so impressed. But like behind the scene, after the performance, we are seeing footages of videos that basically the stage workers they have to carry the humanoid robot because the humanoid robot can't even walk off stage because there are stairs. They still don't understand how stairs work. So like in my opinion, I think like a humanoid robot that is a really good idea. I would love to have a robot doing all the household chores for me, but like, do you think right now it's still a little bit like flying cars? Because like we talk about flying cars 10 years ago, yet I don't see any cars flying behind my back. Like, do you think humanoid robots are a little bit like that?
You make a very good example with the flying cars. That's totally true. Every time I land in New York, it's like, take a flying taxi to the city. And I'm like, this is the only place I ever see this. I don't know that I want to get on that. And yes, I think it's gonna be the same because I don't know for you, Jem, but for me, it's like I'm so impatient with AI. Like I'm patient with humans in a way that I'm not with technology. So it's like when you're talking to Claude or ChatGPT and they keep getting something wrong and you're just like so frustrated. And I just imagine the humanoid robot like getting like stuck and not being able to move correctly. That would make me so nervous, and I would not pay what it probably will cost to have those sorts of experiences. So I do think it will be kind of like self-driving cars that they have to be like just right before they are launched into the market.
Yes, I mean, like, well, I do have more hope, like, to be fair, because now that Elon Musk is doing it,
Yeah.
because I would say, like, if anyone on this, like, a Mother Earth could do it, it's going to be Elon Musk. There's no another person could do it because, like, just look at the achievements that he's made. His track record is quite convincing, in my opinion. But, like, anyways, Azul, this has been great. So we talk about the market, we talk about geopolitics, and of course, we talk about AI as well. So, like, for our viewers out there who wants to get more of your take, your personal perspective, where's the best way to reach out to you?
You guys can find me on X at Azul RTV for Roxom TV.
Amazing, guys. So you had the lady Azul on Roxom TV. So thank you guys for watching. As for my show, I'm live here on Roxom TV Monday through Friday, starting at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. If you don't manage to catch my show live, don't worry. The recorded version is also available on both channels, so being Jam Crypto YouTube channel and also Roxom TV YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. If you haven't liked yet, make sure you do so as well. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show.